I am Nicole Davidson from Growth to Success, and I am really, really passionate about creating thriving workplaces. And today I'm talking to two amazing people who have set up an amazing environment for people to thrive. So welcome, Graham, and welcome, Nathan, to our chat today.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Nicole.
Nicole.
So just to start off, Graham, would you just like to introduce yourself and just tell us a little about a bit about your business?
So Graham Taylor, Touchpoint Financial is the name of my business. Been operating under that name for coming up, I think 11, 12 years. Now have a business partner, Rebecca Carr, under that same umbrella, but we provide comprehensive financial advice to small business owners and retirees, pre-retirees, and people in their retirement. So comprehensive, what does that mean? Well, it means we cover everything. So we're not very, we don't just narrow in on one thing. It's the whole holistic picture of people's affairs.
Great. Fantastic. And Nathan, what about you?
My name's Nathan. I'm from NGR Accounting, and we're in our 10th year. I guess what we sort of look after as an accounting practice is, I guess our market is what you could only probably all best described as mum and dad businesses. And I guess, there's a few parts there, and they might have individual tax returns where we help them process that and give, I guess a little bit of advice, more around tax advice, not financial advice like Graham. And then we do have our business clients as well, where, we do, I guess, the compliance stuff. So compliance is like basically lodging a tax return, doing a set of accounts, doing BASs, and just being compliant with the ATO of what what you need to do with the ATO. So it's lodging, reports.
Right.
And then essentially what we also do as well is we do some business advisory. So that's sort of around, I guess, the profit first stuff there. I don't know if you can see the shirt, but we are big players in that piece where we're big believers in actually helping our clients actually have a profit in their business and show them the way of how they can actually have a system to deliver a profit and actually run a business without the stress that I think a lot of business owners are out there are actually, having day to day.
For sure. Yeah. That's great. That's fantastic. So, and we'll talk about how this sort of fits in with your business as well as we sort of go through our chat. But just a bit of my background with you guys. I originally came and did a presentation. I remember it was a workshop, and it was for men. And our good friend Michael DeHaan, he sort of introduced me to you. So I came and did it in the boardroom, which was great. And that was back in about 2019, I think. And then I came and I had a space in your office. So I had that for a period of time. And then you introduced I think it was a virtual office. And so I also had an opportunity to take up that as well. So you've really created an environment that welcomes people and creates space for people in a way that works for people. So the first question is, what exactly is the Shire Professional Connection?
Yes, it was born out initially of a networking group that we established, and we wanted to put a bit of branding and a name to it. So we came up with Shire Professional Connection, and just by the nature of professional services, people involved in that networking group. And then when we decided to go down this path of setting up a co-working office, we wanted to, that brand already existed and it was relevant to what we were setting up. So we carried it on. And even though that networking group doesn't live on as it did originally, it's how we branded the office. So the office here does not have Touchpoint Financial or NGR Accounting as the signage. It's Shire Professional Connection, and Touchpoint and NGR are essentially occupants within that. But it was intentional in that we wanted an office environment that was focused on attracting like-minded professionals or complementary type professionals. So it was, we don't have a big space here, and that's, again, is intentional. it was a place where we could operate our own businesses from, a much bigger office space compared to what we would have if we had our own or had to find our own space. And just the, I don't know, that just creates a better environment to work in when you've got other people around. So that's what Shire Professional Connection is. But as I alluded to, we do make sure that it's not for your creatives. So there's spaces for that. It's for people that could be complementary to what we do and what our clients are seeking out. So a lot of people call that a one-stop shop, and to some extent we use that word for our clients just to explain what it is, but it doesn't mean that they're using all the services that are offered through this office. So I guess that's how Shire Professional Connection came about. Or SPC is another one, is another way acronym that we describe it as.
Yeah. Baked beans and spaghetti.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. Okay, so that's how it came about. So what was your vision for it when you first started?
The vision that we'd sort of set was, I mean, I guess we've got to go back a little bit in time, right? So I effectively was working by myself, and I guess where the vision had sort of come about was that my business was growing from me just being a one-man band to then needing an employee. And I had met Graham professionally through LinkedIn, and he was in the area I needed a financial planner to sort of work with to refer my clients to. And I had this big vision that, like, I wanted to effectively have, being in the place where I was at that point in time, I wanted an office that could be attractive for future employees that I was going to bring on board. Because I sort of thought about it, well, if I'm just here by myself and I've got like a 40 square meter office, it's just me and one other employee, it's actually quite lonely. But also, like, how's that going to attract the best talent when, you're just in like a square box?
Yeah.
So my vision, I guess, that I sort of explained to Graham, and Graham was happy to get on board, was, it's like, well, let's form a space whereby it's just not us. It's other people that are coming on board for the ride. But then also, it was almost like we could basically say we had our own networking group within the office, right? So there was benefits there in that, I guess, my vision, and I guess, the vision that Graham had as well, and that he could see as well, and he added to, was that we could be more than just an office environment. We could form a really good culture. We could form great connections with people that work together that actually, can help each other out. So even, I guess, when, say, for example, I was smaller, I wanted that ability, knowing that if I left a junior staff member there in the office, that if, say, something was to pop up where an issue where it could be, say, I mean, not that we were ever wanting it, but say, for example, a disgruntled client came to the door, someone who has senior experience could deal with that. If, say, for example, my staff member who was answering questions of a client could then deal that. So they had that support, that network. So I think that was my vision. That was actually quite important.
That's really huge, isn't it, in terms of, because I think what stands out for me there too, first of all, you had that vision that you wanted it to be bigger than yourself. So often in business, you can get into business and, when you're starting and you're on your own, quite often that's where people's visions stop. So I find it really interesting that you had that with your business, that you sort of saw it as something bigger than just your business. There was that part. But also, that sense of belonging and community and collaboration, which is really what all businesses need, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. It was never like, I guess the driver was never like, oh, this is another business where we can make more money.
Sure.
Right. The driver, there was many other drivers. And I mean, look, making a profit in, setting this up was something that we wanted to do, but I don't think it was ultimately what was driving us to where we wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. I think it really speaks, knowing you both. I think it really speaks though to what you had in the way that you think in terms of you don't see yourselves as lone wolves, right? You do see yourselves as part of something bigger. And I think that's why it is so successful. And I suppose that's the bit that I sort of can see you when you were thinking of doing it. That was very much of part of who you both are, from what I can see. What were some of your biggest challenges when you started?
You might think finding the space was a bit of a challenge, but we'd actually considered the office premises we're in now a few years prior,
Okay.
and done all the due diligence on it. But then another office space became available where we sort of just went in, and this is before Shire Professional Connection was even formalised. So when that ended, this place just happened to come up. So you could almost say that it was meant to be, and we already knew what it was. And it was a pretty quick transition into the space here. So one of our challenges, and it's a bit of an ongoing challenge, is making sure that the time spent to keep this place going doesn't take us away from our core business. So we've had thoughts and we've had discussions about expanding this, but sort of alluding to what you just said then, it wasn't our intention to create multiple shared office spaces. So whilst we know that they could that would be a very successful business, it would take us away from what we really want to be doing, which is our individual professions. So that was a bit of a challenge, but we put things in place to virtually make the systems within SPC, with a little bit of admin involved, sort of just tick over and work itself. We didn't have the challenge that you might have about having to fit out a place. So there could be a fair bit more capital cost involved in having to fit it out. This place was pretty much walk-in ready for us to use. So that just worked for us. Actually, now that I think about it, one of the biggest challenges is that just shortly after we took on the office, that's when COVID hit. So
I forgot to mention that.
yes. So it's just, I don't know if we all brush that from our memory. No, I don't think so. But that was definitely a challenge, and one we did think, oh, well, we're ready to open up the doors and people to take space in here, and they're telling us that we need to stay at home. And contrary to the thinking there, as soon as people didn't have to do it, everyone was eager to get out of home. So that didn't turn out to be the big problem that we thought it might be, or we were concerned, because it was new territory for us. So we've never really had issues with filling office space. We haven't really had to advertise too much. We get a lot of inquiries.
Why do you think that is, that you haven't had much trouble?
I just think there's a large cohort of people out there that are attracted to what we've put in place. It's fairly non-committal in that we have a head lease that runs for the period that we've committed to, but if you want to come into our place, it's essentially a short-term commitment, small notice period. You walk in, plug in, off you go. So there's people that are attracted to that simplicity, and I think we've just had. We've had people come and go, and every time someone leaves, the downtime has been very minimal.
That's great, and that's a testament to what you've built, which is fabulous. You mentioned you had another space before you came into this one. So why create your own when there are others out there? Because I know that there's another one at Miranda, but why sort of create your own rather than go into one?
If we go back in time, I mean, originally we were going to actually sign the office that we're in here right now. And what had happened was, and it was probably just really great timing, there was another colleague of mine that said, hey, look, I've got a half-empty office. And I'm like, well, I got the people. Because I guess part of this whole process of getting this up and running, we started sorting out people who would want to come on board on, I guess, the journey to actually be part of this. Like, so, and that's probably my part of like sort of, I guess, and even probably Graham, having that certainty. So I'm always sort of thinking like, well, before we commit to anything, I want to know that we're going to have some people who want to come on board and actually be part of this. So we already had basically a few tenants or occupants who wanted to come on board and share space. And I guess it was, you know, initially going to that other location was, we still were able to achieve the connection, the piece together where we had a co-working space. But I didn't have to worry about fitting out an office, didn't have to worry about finding furniture and all those pieces. I guess, why did we go from where we were down there quite comfortable to here? It was pretty simple. I guess the person that the colleague that I had the lease, the head lease, that had ran out, and we just couldn't negotiate with the landlord that we had there and then. And I guess it forced us into a position where we had to go back to our original plan, and it was a really good thing that actually happened, because it opened up new doors for us. So that's why I guess we done it. We could have had, there's many choices you can make. We could have said, well, hey, we go and set up a new office and we do our own thing, right? So Graham and I were like, that you know, that's options we talked about. We talked about, oh, do we go and join another co-working space, or do we just go and do our own thing and just have a small office? I guess for us, it was just pretty automatic that we wanted to go do what we set out previously. And I guess, I think Graham touched on it before, what we really did want, compared to, say, for example, other co-working offices, and we've heard this, you know, particularly in others that are, you know, Sydney-wide, is that there's a whole mix of businesses that are there.
Yeah.
And I guess what we wanted particularly was, we just wanted people who are on the same page as us, that were dealing with the same issues, that we could talk to about, like, whilst I'm an accountant, you know, I might have, say, for example, a insurance broker who we can talk about stuff, like, whilst they do accounting, they do insurance broking, the topics are all very much similar. But whereas we had shared space with, I guess, mixed businesses, and they didn't really get what we did, and they didn't also have the same professionalism. Right. So I guess we knew we didn't want to walk into a space that was just haphazard and a mix of just everything. We were very clear about what we wanted, and we wanted to just be around other professionals. And that's why even the name itself is the professional, you know, connection.
And as you say, it's not a creative space. It's very clear about what it is.
Yeah. And it's funny, like you mentioned the creative space. I mean, one idea that Graham and I wanted to actually look into actually going into was actually creating, not for us, but it was a business idea, a business concept, that creating a space just for creatives, where they can levitate, they can build together. But once again, as Graham said, like, we said, well, no, we're not going to do that, because we want to focus on our core business.
Right.
So whilst we do have a co-working space, it's quite small in design, so that it's not more than we can handle. So then we can focus on, you know, I can focus on my accounting practice and what I want to do there. Graham can focus on his financial planning practice, but we can still have the fruits of a co-working space that we can control.
Yeah. Yeah. It gives you a lot of power and a lot of choice, really, doesn't it? Yeah. That's great. So I don't know if you're comfortable answering this, but how long did it take to become financially viable?
Yeah, so we put a bit of money in at the start, and knew, based on our projections, or we set the return, I suppose, initially on the capital that we injected, and then anything over and above that was bonus. I think that would be fair to say, and I think Nathan would agree with that. I think it probably took us about a year and a half to recoup what we'd put in. Is that right, Nathan, about that time frame?
Yeah, probably that. It probably would have been a little bit quicker if COVID didn't happen, but yeah, it was probably around 2 years. And now, looking at where we're at now, we get a consistent, you know, profit from what we're doing.
I tell you what, if you want to have the right people in charge of doing the projections, you probably need a financial planner and an accountant. So there you go.
Yeah.
You're kind of ahead of the curve on that one, weren't you?
to sort of extend that a bit as well, when we've considered replicating this or expanding on it, well, it was a completely different payback period because we expect that we would have to fund a fit out,
Right.
and things like that. So I think that's what people sort of appreciate with the walking in. They don't. We've had a couple of people sort of think, oh, okay, when you go and look for premises, they'll talk about square meterage and how much it costs per square meter to rent. Some people do come with that mindset thinking, well, I'm only taking up this much space, but then they quickly realize, oh, okay, well, all the setup and everything that goes along with this, there's a cost to that.
Yeah.
And I'm avoiding that. It's like a license. Essentially, it's like a license to use the space, use the infrastructure we've put in place, internet, all those things that are part of running an office, that all add up. So, yeah, we were definitely, as you say, good ones to know what all our costs are going to be so that we could then charge it at a level that is not just a fair level as well. I'm not trying to make massive profits out of this, but just reasonable for what you're getting through this.
Yeah. And that is obvious when you come in, that you're walking into something, and when you need something like that, and a lot of people will have either worked from home or they will have worked in another office or another co-working space, and it does feel very different when you come in. You can kind of feel that it's just there, and that's peace of mind for people.
Yeah, and we didn't cut corners at the start. Like, it was basically, okay, we need this, we need that. We thought about having a receptionist in there, and we thought, no, we can just stick a camera in there and we'll see people coming in and straight out. So that's things like that were things that we thought about. Said, well, what's going to make this office work and operate the best given the space that we're in, and it does. And I guess the other thing is, well, us compared to maybe a lot of other co-working spaces is that it's all inclusive. So if you need to use the meeting room, the boardroom, it's not, okay, well, there's an additional amount that we're going to charge you each time you need to use it. It's there for your use, and as you need it, or as much as you need it.
And so, what do you believe has been the secret to your success in creating a place where people want to be?
Well, that's a tough question, Nicole.
It is a tough one. I ask the tough ones.
Yeah, the success. Well, I think it's really sort of mapping out what is it you want longer term. And I guess we took what we didn't like, right, and we worked backwards. Right. So I think the best thing, the best way to ever get what you want is by working backwards, sort of going, hey, this is what I would want it to look like, and then working backwards. And then we worked through, I guess, in part of our success formula, what didn't we like? I mean, so we went, well, okay, we don't like the fact that people go out in, I guess, across cubicles and start shouting and talking to each other, which is what used to happen in our previous office. So we went, well, hey, how do we deal with that? Okay, we want a code of conduct. So there are some things that I know you shouldn't have to say, but we have a formal document to go, hey, these are things you shouldn't do. So that was, I guess, one way of going, hey, setting the precedent and the success. But then there's also thinking about things that we want to do. Like, one thing we always wanted to do was to come together. Yeah. So what we do every month is that we have a lunch meeting where one person in the business can present, or say one of our might be, because we do also rent out boardrooms month to month to people as well. So we give them the opportunity to come in and present, and we give them the opportunity to come in as well and sit down with us and have a lunch once a month, which is, I think, that community piece. Yeah. Getting to know each other. If you know each other, then you'll learn to work with each other, builds up that credibility. So I guess it's really coming together, all those little pieces, and then putting it together, and then it's like putting the puzzle together.
Yeah.
How do we want it to fit?
Yeah. And I think that whole begin with the end in mind, definitely. And I also think too, and I don't know, it amazes me in a way how workplaces and business owners probably don't connect this a bit more, but doing things that being aware of things that you didn't like in your previous employment or your previous place, right? Because if you didn't like it, then other people aren't going to like it either. So being really intentional to leave out the things that aren't meant to be there. And I think that's what a big part of your success has been. You human beings. You don't put on any airs and graces. You are just who you are, and you put yourself in. You've taken what was important to you, and that naturally translates to being important to other people as well.
Yeah, that's right. I think we don't like everyone's worked in pretty stale office environments and unpleasant environments, so we've got a pretty good casual, laid back culture here. We can all have a bit of a laugh. We can all help each other out if you could sort of sense that someone's having a bad day or whatever, and maybe be a bit of an outlet. We're not in little silos. You know, my business is not sort of over there off limits to everybody else. So that's not something we intentionally fostered. I think it's just become it's sort of naturally happened off the back of what we've put in place.
Put together, yeah. And what's the impact? What impact has it had on your own businesses then? So you're really conscious of, not taking away from that, but what impact has it had?
Yeah, I mean, I guess probably what I would say is like the staff environment, as I was sort of mentioning before. My team's built up over the years, but it's still like, for example, one of my staff members, Sue, every lunchtime she goes for a walk with one of Graham's staff members, Sam. So, it's nice. I mean, none of the rest of my team want to go for a walk at lunchtime, but Sue's been able to find someone that she can go and, exercise and get out of the office with, and they have a great chat. That wouldn't be there if we didn't do this. So that there's those one-to-one connections. But also, I mean, you're building up peer groups where you're talking to each other, and then you also, at the same time, we're now starting to actually have lead generation within the office.
Right.
So people are starting to pass through referrals, just like, say, for example, a B&I group. Like we've heard about the B&I groups and networking and all that.
Yeah.
I guess my theory was, why go to an actual networking meeting when you can just have it in your office? You just naturally see each other in your natural day-to-day course, and there's, hey, you're really good at what you do. You can solve a problem for one of my clients. Here, please help them out. And that's great on two aspects. It helps out, I guess, the person who's renting space from us, but then also helps the client solve a problem in their business.
Right.
Yeah.
The other point to make as well is that even from the outset, one of the other intentions with the size of the office that we took on was, okay, as our individual businesses expand and we have more people, well, we want to avoid that situation where, okay, we're too big for this space, we need to move on. So that's been able to flourish, and we've been able to manage that because conceptually we've known, okay, well, I've got someone coming on shortly. How is that going to work as far as the space that we've got? And it's allowed us to manage, okay, if someone's leaving, let's not make that available because I'm going to need that in a month or so for my own business. So when we joined this office, it was me and myself and one other. And now there's 5 of us, and Nathan would have been the same, I think. There were 2 of you, Nathan, I think. And now there's, how many of you? 5, 6 of you. So
yeah.
Wow.
It's a race between us two to see how many seats we can fill in the office.
Yeah, it's a good incentive, isn't it? I think like a bit of healthy competition. No, that's great. That's really good. And so what advice would you give to others who are thinking of creating their own shared working space?
My advice would be to, I mean, we said it a bit throughout this, is to know the end point. So start there and say, where do I want this to be? It's not
Mm.
going to be there from day one,
Yeah.
but make the right decisions early, commit to them. There's a few non-negotiables, but then it comes down to, I guess, just networking and making sure that people are aware of the existence of it. It was funny when we did start this little space here, the one down in Miranda. I think who's this little
Right.
place popping up down there? So we think they might have sent out a few reconnaissance people to sort of check us out, or that's the sense that we got at some stage. That clearly we're different to them.
Definitely.
It's a very sort of boutique arrangement that we've got here, but yeah, that would be my main advice. We've been here, I don't know if this is our 5th year, I think it is now.
Mm.
And that time has flown, so time does go pretty quickly, and
Yeah.
we'll be up for the end of the head lease shortly, so we'll need to figure out what happens from here.
Mm. Mm.
I think, like, for me, I just like sort of looking at that train analogy,
Yeah.
like the steam train. So I love referring back to that, and I would sort of look at it and go, hey, if I was running a steam train, and what's the first thing you want to do? I want to get people on the platform interested, right? And then we need to then go, hey, get them interested enough to get on the actual train, and then it's like, okay, now we start rolling, and at every stop we just want to add more people to it. And I think you can apply that to any business, right? And I think one piece of success that we did to get to where we are initially was, we got a group of people that before we even started that were keen to jump on board. Didn't want to do what we were doing,
Yeah.
and operate it and own it, but they wanted to be part of it, and were like, yeah, I'd buy that, or I'd be part of that service.
Yeah, that's so great, and that's a great analogy. Yeah, and I think also it's about because another train analogy: if the train doesn't stop at your station, it's not your train. So I think that kind of also speaks to the importance of letting people who aren't right go, and so that the people who are right can get on the train. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so,
and we definitely had people sort of show interest, but we've been pretty upfront. No, you're not really the right fit for this office. So it hasn't been about trying to fill the space as quickly as possible.
right. Again, the whole theme of it has been be intentional about what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a few co-working spaces in the area, and I've often, referred them to. There's one down in Miranda. I've referred them down there quite a few times. And then there's another one, a creative one in Tarrant Point. I said, I think you should really go down there, have a look at what they're doing, because we're
Right.
just not a right fit for you. And it's okay to say no.
Yeah. It's essential to say no, isn't it?
But
Yeah.
I guess my thing as well is that no matter who's in front of me, I always like to sort of help them where I can. No,
Yeah.
I can't help you personally here in this situation when you're coming on board or whatever it might be. But here's, I think, what you could do is put some suggested places, and that gives them that ability to go, hey, I can look somewhere else.
Yeah, that's right. And it also means too, if they hear of somebody that is right for you, they can actually, they've had an experience with you and it's been a really positive one. And that's that whole mindset, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So just finally, what are you most proud of?
I'm proud that it stood the test of time. That's from my perspective, I think. Yeah, and just particularly from Nathan and my perspective, we're sort of business partners as far as the co-working is concerned, but those things, it's like a relationship, really. You've got to make sure that they work and there's a good fit. Yeah, we've got a really good environment where Nathan can sort of tread his path on his business, and it can be very different to the way I tread my path on my business, but we can still operate in parallel to each other, and it works. So I think that's probably, I don't know how long we've known each other for, Nathan. I know Nathan said before that, we met on LinkedIn or whatever. He often tells people that I was stalking him on LinkedIn. So that's how he describes it. But that would have been, I don't know, maybe even 9 years ago or something.
About 9 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm proud that, to see where his business has gone, from where he started out as well. And it's really just playing out as planned, I think. There's more to come. Who knows where things are going to go, but I can feel pretty confident that we'll be able to make the right decisions based on what we've done in the past.
Yeah, I think, like, if I had to add to that, I'd have to definitely agree with what sort of Graham has said, but also, like, the business partnership, but then also the respect that we both have for each other as business partners in this, and just not as co-licensees or tenants in this space operating our own businesses, but like the respect we have as business partners. You know, we always run by each other what's going on. We have regular meetings to talk about what's going on in the business, and we just have that respect for each other to make sure that what we're doing is in the best interest for us together as business owners, but then also as the combined business. So, and I think it's just like any relationship, really. I mean, it's a key fundamental that, you know, you respect each other, and I mean, we've done that really well, and we talk through whatever's going on, and we make decisions together. And then that's what I'd say I'm most proud of here. I mean, getting people in there and all that is just all part and parcel of it, and that's pretty exciting in itself. But I know that there's a lot of businesses that start together and they fail in the first couple of years, and the fact that as a partnership, like, this business is, you know, in its 5th year, but then even knowing each other for 9 years has been a great partnership in itself.
Yeah, that's right, and choosing the right people to partner with.
Yeah, just as well he stalked me all those years ago then.
Yeah.
Effective strategy, isn't it?
I could say, no, you were stalking me.
Your story, Graham. So, if people are interested in the Shire Professional Connection, because you do have the boardroom for rent and also the meeting room, how can they contact you?
I think we'll get you to share that in the show notes.
Yep, we'll do that.
So,
It's just because it is a great space. So while it might be full, or there might be opportunities intermittently, you do have those spaces that you can actually hire out. So, and it is, when we talk about the Shire, we kind of assume everybody knows where the Shire is. So the Shire is actually the Sutherland Shire in Sydney. So yeah, it does.
we're only 10 minutes from Cronulla. We're not in Cronulla, so parking's still fine in Carring Bar. So, and that was like even another piece. Like, another piece we went, hey, like, you know, where we're going to be, and it really fit into our lifestyle. But then also, we would have loved to be down in Cronulla, but it just was not going to work for what we wanted. So we're close to Cronulla, have that heart, but we're, you know, close to Miranda, and it's just a great CBD down here and a great business environment to be part of.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Well, thank you both so much for your time and for sharing all that wisdom that you've acquired over that time. And again, just thank you from me for making my experience with you so great, and wishing you every success going forward.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole.